Hello, and welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals. And we invite folks on to help us who can be amazingly helpful and give us ways of thinking about life that maybe we didn't have before. And that's why I'm so psyched that we have Adam Rosen with us today. Adam is like an entrepreneur extraordinaire. What he loves today, he loves supporting business owners and sharing his roller coaster startup journey, which I can't wait to hear about, to help those who are on a similar path, which I think is you, listeners. So he's a founder of a tech startup, and he spent 5 years leading a college recruiting startup that was acquired in 2019, which is what anybody starting a new business would like to have their business acquired by a leading college marketing firm. And today, his primary focus is helping startups get more sales appointments hassle-free through his lead generation business, which is called, is it email outreach company?
Nice and simple, email outreach company.
Okay, good. I wasn't making sure it wasn't like send an email to outreach company, right? Okay, email outreach company. Adam, thanks so much for being with us today. I'm really psyched to talk to you.
No, thank you, Christine. I appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm really excited to be here. So thank you.
Awesome. So Adam, you said you had a roller coaster journey. So tell me all about it. How did you get started? What happened? You didn't just wake up and say, hey, I've got this great $1 million idea. I'm going to do it, right?
No, it's funny. That's what everybody always says. I need to find that $1 million idea. I need to find that $1 billion idea, the next Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And I hate to break it to everybody. It's actually good news. That's not, or almost never, the case. It's never that like, whoa, big idea in the shower. I'm going to build this thing out exactly as planned, and I'm going to be rich in 16 months. Like that's never the case.
I hate to say it. Doesn't that sound boring?
Yeah. I mean, I would take that boring route though. I'm not going to lie. I would sign up for that boring route. I would gladly be bored with, a successful $1 billion exit though. So I would take that boredom.
So how did it happen for you?
Yeah. So, I never worked a true 9-to-5 job. I did some internships where I got that, and I worked at restaurants through high school and college and all that, but I never worked like a corporate job. So my senior year, I started a program at my university, and I was all about supporting entrepreneurs, helping get funding for entrepreneurs at my college. It went well. They offered me a position to get a 1-year MBA program, continue running that program. It was during that MBA I met my 2 original co-founders. And then 3 weeks before I graduated with that 1-year MBA, we decided to start what ended up being my first company. And the general gist of that company was there's something special about college student organizations and colleges, think engineering clubs, business clubs, et cetera. And we found that companies want to get connected to them for jobs, as well as to get data on them for surveying. So we built out what ended up becoming a tech company. We did it for 5 years. We were acquired in 2019 by a college marketing firm, like you said. No, I did not get rich from that. People hear acquired and they think, wow, Adam, you must have moved to Hawaii, retired at 26, 27, 28 years old. You must be drinking Mai Tais every day, just living the dream. That was not the case. So that's part of the reason why I say it was a roller coaster journey. There was a lot of downs in that journey. There was firing of co-founders. There was times we couldn't pay ourselves, but we could pay our employees. There was product market fit issues. Any problem you can imagine in a startup, we faced it, but we were fortunate to be acquired. But again, that acquisition, I always like to be transparent with everybody I speak to, because I feel like the startup world is filled with fluff and BS. We try to paint a picture that isn't always the reality. I don't think that helps anybody. So it was an acquisition to make sure our students ended up in a good place, our companies ended up in a good place, and we can make as much money back for our investors as possible. And then we can move on to do what's next in our journey.
And that's like a foundation, right? Is that how you look at it? It's kind of like, I learned a whole bunch of stuff and now I'm ready for the next, right? It's like an expensive college. Entrepreneurship is an expensive college. That's what I look at.
Exactly. It was a expensive PhD, but it was the greatest PhD I ever could have gotten. Yes. The 2 biggest learnings for me, or not 2 biggest learnings, I would say, but in terms of more of like the internal learnings was really number 1 was just, do I have the chops to be an entrepreneur? Because it's easy to watch these motivational videos or hear these stories or read a book and be like, I can do that. And I could, be eating cereal and peanut butter and, living which by the way, that's true. I used to eat cereal and peanut butter for dinner, far more than I should probably admit. we all want to say that we would do that stuff and we would enjoy that stuff. And we could do that for 3 months, 6 months, or a year, but to eat dirt for 5 years, that was probably the biggest thing that I proved to myself, aside from like the more tangible learnings that came from it.
Yeah. One of my businesses that I started, I realized that if I would have just taken that whole time off, that it would have cost me a lot less money. Like I should have just like totally vacation, seeing the world for those 5 years. And then instead of trying to do this business, because it would have been a heck of a lot cheaper, but you're right. I wouldn't have learned as much. So
Exactly.
But that's fun. So now what did you do after you found yourself, okay, now I can afford to eat, maybe a steak once in a while, or, something besides peanut butter. And then what, you had your PhD, your entrepreneurship PhD.
Yeah. So as my business partner and I, because we started with more co-founders, it ended up just being me and one other co-founder who we still are still co-founders and business partners. But when we decided to sell the company, that was about in February of 2019. Once we made that decision, I left my place in Boston, or I told my landlord I was leaving. I went out to Hawaii in April. I lived there for just under a year. We officially sold the company in July of that year. And then I came back for a wedding on New Year's Eve going into 2020. And it was in New York City. And I met with my business partner again, and he was always in real estate development. So he was a developer that before we started a company was always very successful with it. And his father, the same thing. So he would buy land, do the surveying, engineering, all that stuff. He would subdivide the land and then sell it. And his dad had this property in upstate New York, and he was working with another sales company to sell it for them, and it didn't go well. So my business partner said, hey, would you be open to moving up to upstate New York and leading this project by yourself and just running the sales for it? And I was like, no shot. I'm not going to upstate New York. Like, I'm going back to Hawaii. Get the hell out of here. Right? No way.
Let me think. 6 feet of snow in the winter, or Hawaii. That's a tough one.
Yeah, exactly. But he's a convincing guy and I trust him. And so I ended up leaving all my stuff in Hawaii, and I went up to upstate New York, and it ended up being like such an amazing, about 16 or 18 months up there. And I knew nothing about real estate. I'm not like an outdoorsy guy. I'm running around the woods with a survey map, having no idea what I'm talking about or what I'm doing in the beginning, but learning on the fly. And that was just an amazing learning, because I ended up doing a very good job with it, selling it out. And it was just a great learning to be like, okay, I can go into a completely different industry. I went from being an expert, speaking at conferences, co-founder, all that like exciting stuff, to like, now I'm learning a whole brand new trade. And that was my next chapter. And that the learning for me was, okay, I can learn different things. I learned a new part of sales. I learned how it can be translated. I learned how to create systems and technology into an old, antiquated world of real estate. So it was an amazing second chapter for me that really just concluded last year.
Fun. Yeah. A lot of the people I know who are really successful in real estate, it's because they saw that, like, I have to develop systems, right? Plan for success. The folks who have it on like an index card or in there, I'll just leave it in my phone and hope for the best. So I can remember to call people back, right? You got to have that system.
Yeah, exactly. There's just simple systems you can build that can make your life so much easier, but also just so much more effective, not just for you, but for your customers.
Yeah, definitely. So now what?
Yeah. So during that time, I'd always been working with startups and small businesses. So I've been fortunate over the past 2 years. I got connected to an amazing company. They're called Eureka. Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank is heavily involved working with them. Early Facebook team members started them. Their whole goal is to help small businesses to be more successful, get them the resources and support to take their business to another level. So I got connected to them about 2 years ago, and I've been coaching classes with them virtually. So I've been doing that, but I've also been advising tech startups. And one of the tech startups that I was advising, or still am advising, but this was about a year ago now, I was talking to their CEO and he said, hey, do you mind talking to our head of sales? She's struggling to get meetings on her calendar. I said, sure, I'll talk to her. So I talked to her and I found out that she wasn't doing enough from an email marketing standpoint to get new leads and new meetings on her calendar. So I went to their CEO. I said, hey, man, if you want, I can help you out with this. And he said, yeah, do it for me. So I called on my business partner. I said, hey, let's build out a cold email outreach system like we did with our tech startup for these guys. We did it. It went well. We had the opposite problem that we had with our tech startup of not having product market fit and not having good retention numbers. With this company, we did get that. So we built a product that they wanted to renew. They wanted to give us more money. Next wanted to renew. Next wanted to give us more money, so on and so forth. And then about end of last summer, early fall, my business partner and I said, hey, let's build this business from anywhere in the world and let's start traveling. So my business partner was outside the country. I met him in Europe. We spent we spent those few months traveling. I was in Hawaii for a while. That's when we first got connected. And now I'm in Austin, Texas for the next month. And then I'll be heading overseas again next month. So it's been an exciting business to build, new learnings, and it's also allowing us to travel the world, which has been exciting. Definitely.
So a true digital nomad.
Yes.
Which is fun, right? I mean, do you feel any sort of, this is a total, departure from our real conversation, but when I travel a lot, sometimes I start to feel like it's a little bit of a hassle. It depends. Like you're staying 1 month in one place, so that helps. But are there any downsides to being a digital nomad?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I try to never even come across as I'm complaining, because I realize how blessed I am to be able to do this. But of course, I mean, there is something nice about having stability and having I don't have no home base anymore. It's nice having, I've given away pretty much everything I owned. So it's nice having a place where you can have your bed and your clothes and your storage and all that stuff like that. That is nice. And traveling, you're kind of living out of a suitcase, going place to place. And it's tough to develop long-term. I mean, I'm a single guy, 30-year-old single guy. So it's a little bit easier for me, but it's tough to develop long, sustainable relationships, because who wants to be with somebody who's bouncing from place to place, which I completely understand. Yeah. So those are, I guess, two of the downsides, but the upsides is I feel like in so many different parts of the world right now, I have great friends that, I never would have met, never would have had the opportunity to learn from and connect with if I wasn't doing this.
Yeah. That's one thing I found about traveling is it's kind of funny, because first you're like, oh, I just want to go everywhere. But then you meet people somewhere and you're like, oh, well, I'd like to go back and visit those people. No, you've been there. You've got to go someplace new. You can't be visiting those people. At least now, right. You can FaceTime or whatever. You can Zoom people and, have a little bit more connection. But it just gets to be like, oh, I know somebody there, but, I haven't talked to them for 2 years or whatever.
I just wish I could clone myself and just being live in all these different places. Cause I'm I love being in Austin, but I wouldn't mind being back in Hawaii. I wouldn't be in Europe. I want to be, here. There's so many places I go to and I'm like, oh my God, this place is amazing. It's also made me appreciate even places that I grew up in New York, and even different places that I always took for granted. I'm like, oh, this is kind of actually a cool place. You appreciate the small things in places more. At least that's helped me do that.
Yeah, that's true. And staying someplace, I think what you're talking about is so different from being a tourist, right? You tour, I love my cousin. She came to visit me when I was living in London, and all she wanted to do is literally drive up to a place, take a picture, and hop back in the car. You know what I mean? I just want to fill out my scrapbook. I thought, but living in a place, even for a month, it's just a different experience than just this kind of touristy thing where you just Zoom. Hey, oh, check. Right. We got the highlights. Now what? Oh, let's go back to the room and watch Netflix,
Yeah, no, it's true. And that is the thing. That's why I like to stay in a place for at least a month, because then you really get to experience it. And it's also tough. It's not like I'm just on vacation, it's a lot of my days are filled with meetings, and I'm just trying to make sure that when I am in a place that I'm able to still explore it and adventure and really soak the place in, but it's not like I'm just on a vacation here. So it's that balance of you're in this amazing place, but it's not like you can get sucked into just vacation land because you have a job to do and you have people, customers to serve.
Yeah. So who is your sort of target audience today? Is it companies mostly? You're selling your stuff to companies primarily?
Yeah. So a lot of them our initial customers have been startups. So startups from solo founders that have never had a customer before to startups with, 10, 20, 30 employees or so. But now we're seeing some of these bigger companies that they need to get more sales meetings too. And either their team members don't have enough time to do it, or frankly, they're just not that great at doing what's necessary to set up a meeting through cold email outreach. So we're starting to see some good demand from much larger companies now too, which we didn't expect in the beginning. So I want it to be a healthy balance of both, because I do love working with startups and seeing them grow. But there's a lot of benefit to it, working with these larger companies as well.
Definitely. I mean, they'll force you to grow, but also there's money.
Exactly. Yeah. Their budget's a little bit different sometimes than a teeny tiny startup that's bootstrapped.
Yeah, exactly. Can we pay you in $5 installments?
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, we're very picky about who we work with. So anyone who would be like that, I'd rather just give you as much free value as I can and, you know, do it on yourself.
Set you free.
Yeah. Like that's even one thing too, for my tech startup. Like there were times we'd work with customers that frankly, I didn't want to work with, but we had to do it.
Yeah.
That's something I refuse to do now. It sounds harsh. If I don't like you, if I don't like working with you, I'm not going to work with you because we don't need to, and I'm not going to do that. And I think that's something for any entrepreneur. Don't work with people. Don't work with people just because you feel like you have to, because you don't.
Exactly. I'm just so glad you said that. That's such a huge thing in real estate. I'm a real estate agent. So I talk to other real estate agents and they kind of hate their life. They hate their job. Like, oh, like, how do you stop people from calling you at 10 o'clock at night? And how do you don't work with jerks,
Right.
you just, people who respect you, who have boundaries, first of all, you have to have boundaries, but because the worst thing is, right, every jerk has 10 jerky friends and they're just going to refer you. And then you just, next thing you know, you're only working with jerks. You're like, and I'm using jerks because we're on TV, It's not the word I want to use.
Exactly. No, it's true. And the jerks, to use your very just profane word, just so inappropriate. The thing about the jerks too, is they tend to be just a lot more difficult to please. They're always asking for more. Nothing's ever good enough. It's the same thing with people that always want to be the tightest with the amount of money they pay you. Like it's never good enough for them.
Right.
Nothing is ever good enough. Where the people that sometimes pay you the most, the nicest people, they also have lower expectations. And it's not like you want to take advantage of low expectations, but those are the types of people that you want to work with. If there's bad energy, I really just don't want to work with you. I don't care how much money you're paying us.
Exactly. Because that's a scarcity mindset as opposed to a mindset of gratitude. And I mean, I've had clients give me presents at the end, like, I get paid for this, right? You don't have to give me a present, it's just, those are the kind of people you want. And again, they refer you to other people just like them. It's the way to go for sure. For sure.
It's true.
So what do you think, why do you think your emails are successful? Whereas what the average Joe is sending is not so successful?
Yeah. So the average person versus like another company in our space, which one?
Well, yeah, like you said, that the salespeople aren't having success on their own. So that's one question. Like, why aren't the salespeople? What are you doing that's different? And then what about if you want to compare yourself to other companies that are in a similar space?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest mistakes that I see is when people send emails, you got to keep things short, sweet, and to the point. The amount of emails I get that are like 3 or 4 paragraphs long it blows my mind. Like I'll never understand that in a million years. Like they don't know who you are. They're not going to read a 3 or 4 paragraph email from their kids. You think they're going to read it from you, who they don't even know? Of course not. Right. So that's number one, is you got to be short and sweet. And we do a good job of that. I give my business partner all the credit for that, because he does a lot of the copy for us. He does really all the copy for us, and he does a terrific job with it. He's a great writer, but he's also a great business mind. And that's one of the biggest things, is you got to keep things short and sweet. You can keep things to 3, 4, 5 sentences, have them on their own line. It makes it easy to read, and it gives you a chance for them to pass each test. First line, okay, that was good. I'll read the next line. Next line, good. I'll read the next line. You got to make it easy for people to do it. So that's one. Number two, lack of personalization. So if you're reaching out to people on a mass scale, you're not going to know everyone's needs, of course. But if you're reaching out to somebody in real estate, it should be focused on real estate and a problem that this person as a realtor would have. And then your solution should be focused on what a realtor would be looking for. So you got to make it personalized to the types of people that you're reaching out to. And then number 3, and this might be the most important one, follow up. So many people send one email, they don't get a response, they move on. On average, from our data, it takes 4 emails to get one successful meeting booked. Yeah. I can't tell you how many meetings we get set up after the 8th or 9th follow-up, and sales that come from that. One of our clients that was on the 8th follow-up email, the woman responded to talk to one of our clients, because we just book sales meetings. We booked the appointment for our client. Yeah. So the woman that we reached out to, she said, "I'm so sorry for not responding sooner. Let's talk." They had a conversation 2 days later. 2 days later, they booked a $2,500 workshop on the call, 1-hour workshop for $2,500. Then that led to a bigger contract. And now it's looking like that might be a 6-figure deal, which came from the 8th follow-up. So if you don't follow up, you don't even give yourself a chance. And then the final thing is just, you got to have a clear call to action. What are you asking them? Right. Like, do you have 15 minutes to chat? What is that question you're asking them? What's that call to action? If there's no call to action, what are they going to do with it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. And another thing that I'm sure you already know and just maybe didn't mention is just the subject line. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't even want to think about how many unread emails I have right now between, as we were talking before we started, across my 6 email addresses. Uh, and when I just sit down and I just look, what can I delete? Right. Chick, 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 chick. I don't know you. There's nothing in the subject line that interests me. Like, I'm not going to open that. You're never going to get a chance for me to read that compelling first line if the subject isn't like great, right? Something like you say that speaks to me as a person that I'm going to want to even find out what's inside.
No, you're absolutely right. And the other thing too, with that in mind, is like, so I'm just not a believer in like the whole corny stuff that some people will do. And like, even just like, I hope this email finds you well. And I hope you and your family are doing well during COVID. It's like, of course, like, yes, we all hope that, of course, but why the hell are you wasting such valuable real estate to say that? Like, what are you doing? It's like walking into a house and the first thing you walk through is a boiler room. Like, yes, I know there's going to be a boiler room in the house, but like, is that really the first thing I need to see when I walk into this house?
Exactly.
No. So yeah, it's just like that crap. It's like, stop pretending like you know me. I know you don't give a crap about me, and that's okay. Show you give a crap about me by being short, sweet, and to the point, and having a problem that's clear that might be related to me, and a solution that's clear that might be a solution to my pain.
Yeah. The other thing about sending multiple emails, and I know people is in take it personally, right? Oh, I sent an email and they didn't respond. I guess they don't like me. Right. But also, like, I have a lot of people who want to post articles on my blog. So I constantly get emails. Oh, can I contribute to your blog? Well, sometimes I delete them because I don't really know, because I'm not clear that that's what they want. But oftentimes they go to spam. And so they'll keep, some of the people will say, hey, I didn't hear back from you. And I'll be like, who are you? I didn't, I don't. And then I look in it and it's in spam. So you don't know why they ended up there once and not the other time. Sometimes, I don't know, it's weird. But also it depends on you, right? When you're reading it. Do I have time to read another useless email today? No.
Yeah. Or am I in a good mood or a bad mood? Like, that's, people don't realize like these little human traits that happen. Like, it's luck of the draw. Like, you might get on the phone with somebody and they just had such a great thing happen. Their boss complimented them, their husband, their wife, their kids, whatever, like something good happened in their life. And they're like, you know what? I'm in a giving mood right now. Versus the flip side, like, they didn't have their coffee yet. Like, they were in traffic all day. Their, husband is being a pain, like their kids are getting in trouble in school, their boss is being a pain, whatever that is. And you know what? I don't want to either talk to you, I'm going to have a bad meeting with you, or I'm not going to respond to your email. And that's why the following up is important. But to your point, you got to do it in a respectful way. It's not their responsibility to respond to you. And when people try to be like, if you send an email about something and then they're like, well, I guess you don't value this, this, and this because you didn't respond to me. It's like, who are you? Who are you? Like, who are you to say that? So most people, frankly, just aren't good at sending emails. They're just not. And we are good at it because we had to learn it, because we had to be scrappy. We had no other choice. It was our lifeline to survive as a business. But I don't blame people for not being good at it. Nobody likes doing it. And it's challenging. But if you do know what you're doing, you can see good results from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you think is the best thing about your life right now?
I'd say I feel very, very, very fortunate to be able to go to all these different parts of the world while building a business that is adding value with great customers, with an amazing business partner. But I'm also fortunate that, my sister, she started her own business. She used to work at Spotify, and she started her own business officially just under a year ago now. And she's now a digital nomad too. So she's been traveling with me. She was out there in Hawaii with me when I was there. My dad lives out in Hawaii too. So we were all close to each other, all within like a 5-minute drive. She came to Austin with me. She's going to be traveling with me, and my business partner too, who I'm going to be getting together with again next month. So I feel very fortunate to be doing something I love doing that's valuable, from amazing places in this world, and doing it with people that I love. So I just feel very, very fortunate.
That's amazing. So what's kind of the worst or the most challenging part of your life right now?
That's a great question. The worst or most challenging part of my life right now. Trying to be present, like with all that, I do feel very fortunate, but I'm always someone where nothing is ever good enough for me at the same time. And that's probably one of my biggest flaws, is just nothing is ever truly good enough. So I always find, even when something good happens, well, this didn't happen, or this isn't happening fast enough, or whatever. So for me, it's always trying to stay grounded, stay present, and to just be appreciative of every moment, because I know there's going to be a time, where I'm looking back like, wow, that was such an amazing gift that I had in my life, and I didn't appreciate it enough. So that's always my focus.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. That's a really great answer. And it's so true, right? But if you weren't always striving for more, well, you might be like a Walmart greeter. I mean, you are where you are because you're striving for more, because there is always room for improvement. So don't feel too bad about that.
Right. But that is the question though, what's better, to be, the most successful person in the world, a Hollywood, let's say you're a Hollywood A-list actor and you just want a Grammy, or like a Will Smith, for example. Obviously he's hot in the news right now, like he had, even just from what he's been very open about, like he's not necessarily feeling the best, or he's not in his best mode. He's not his happiest right now, versus somebody else who might be a Walmart greeter or doing something else, and they are happy and they're content with where they are in life. So what's better, being like an A-list or a billionaire or whatever, and not being fully happy? And not to say anything bad about Will Smith, but is it better to be that? Or is it better to be someone who is maybe has less dreams, less goals, doesn't need to be quite as ambitious, but they're happy and content with where they are? I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. I guess I feel like they're growing, if you're not evolving and you're not growing and you're not, you know what I mean? Trying to step up one more step. I think that's where a lot of your energy and your vitality and, where the fun of life comes from. But yeah, I suppose there's something to be said for just contentment. But
yeah, I do agree with you. And I do think at least for me, as I think about legacy, and I feel like a responsibility for all of us. And my dad would always say this to me, it's like, my responsibility as your father is to give you a better life than I had. And I feel like if and when I become a father, that'll be the same thing that I try to do. And I think for all of us, I do think that's a big part, is how do I make sure that I leave the next generation better off than my generation was? So I do think that is part of our human responsibility, to your point.
Yeah, I agree. So what advice would you give to people who are sort of, I guess let's start with some advice for people who are considering, or who are playing around with the idea, or who have something that they kind of thought might be, that they could scale, and they just haven't quite jumped off the cliff yet. Like, what kind of advice would you give to them?
If you don't show up, you don't have any chance of winning the game. Like you gotta be in the game to win the game. So that's number one, is like, you got to show up. So my thing is always just dive in. I remember my business partner, when we were considering starting the first company, because I had a great job offer coming out of college. He told me a story about, an old, I forgot exactly who it was, but basically there was an army that was taking a boat ride to an island. And it was a much, much, much bigger army that they were going against. And they get off the boat, and the first thing that the captain does is he burns the boat. And they're like, what are you doing? Like, how are we going to get out of here? And they said, well, we're either going to die here or we're going to win this battle, but we ain't turning around. So I do think a big thing is you got to burn the boats. You got to burn the boats and go all in. So I do think that's one big piece. And then when you do build it, don't try to go so big in the beginning. Like, just make one customer the happiest customer in the world, and make sure that they want to renew. And if they do renew, you're on the right path. If they don't renew, figure out why they didn't renew, and change your product, change your service, change your offering, so that you can get someone else to buy from you and renew from you. Because if you don't get to product market fit, building a business built off of feathers, it ain't going to take you anywhere. It's going to feel like you're banging your head against the wall. So make one customer happy, because if you do that, I guarantee you can find a second, a third, a fifth, a 10th, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's great advice. Because I think the temptation, right, is to just go sell it all over the world, and then you find out nobody likes it.
Or people do they're excited, they'll buy once, but then they're like, wasn't that great? So I'm gonna drop this. I'm gonna drop the contract, and I'm gonna move on. Where if you do it, and we've been so slow in building this email company because we've been so focused on making sure we get to product market fit. So I advise people do that. If you take that slow foundational path, like you mentioned earlier, you'll be able to actually scale. But if you try to scale too fast, you're going to end up building, a company, again, based off of a base of, feathers.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So what advice would you give to people who are struggling with their own email marketing, is there any kind of, like tips, or, I mean, we've obviously covered some things, but maybe just like a 1, 2, 3 action list or something that people could implement this afternoon?
Yeah. So one, figure out who your audience is you want to go after. So got to figure out that audience. Two, once you figure out that audience, find someone to build out an email list for you. Because you could buy email lists. You could either, you can go through upwork.com if you want to find people to build it for you. If you want our help, you can reach out to us and we can help you get an email list as well. So that's the second thing, is get that email list. 3, get a software to send out these emails. I love the software GMASS, GMASS. That's a great tool to use to send out cold emails. It does a lot of the work for you. 4, write a great email. Great email. And what do I mean by a great email? Like you said, simple, to the point subject line. Simple email. What's the problem? What's your solution? What's your ask? Do you have 15 minutes to talk about this? It should be no more than 5 or 6 sentences. 4, make sure you write follow-up emails. Through GMAS, you can put 8 follow-up emails in there. So put your follow-ups in there, make those follow-ups short, sweet, and to the point. And then the last thing, number 5, is have good email templates, response templates. So if they say, hey, I want to talk to you, what's your response template? Thanks so much. Here's my Calendly to book some time. If they say they're not interested, okay, thank you for letting me know. Best wishes. What are your different response templates, so that when they do respond, you already have your templates ready. So you don't have to rewrite it every time. So those would be my 5 main tips, at least off the top of my head, that I would recommend.
Those are excellent tips. Excellent tips. So Adam, okay. What should I have asked you? What are you like burning to tell everybody that I just didn't think of?
That's a great question. I can't say there's anything off the top of my head, but I have a question for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
So what would you say you're most excited about right now?
Oh man, this is going to be a long answer because there's so much going on right now. So where I live, someone came and made me an offer on my house, unsolicited, because they're buying the place next door, whatever. And so they offered me about twice what I have into it. So all of a sudden I'm flush with, some kind of cash. This is a 2-family. So I've got some 1031 exchange money that I got to do. So I'm looking at buying a office space, which I'm going to turn into like a WeWork kind of a model, shared office space.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, lighten me up. I'm excited about that. And then the other thing is, of course, I have to move. So I right now I live at the beach. I'm looking right outside. I'm looking at the Atlantic Ocean, which is not as good as Hawaii, but at least it's
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
It's pretty good. So I'm like, for a while I was like, oh, where am I going to live? What am I going to do? I'm leaving the beach, blah, blah. But now I'm buying a place like downtown in the city, which is going to be really exciting. Like everything's within walking distance. So the whole thing is, yeah. And I'm doing what you're doing, like downsizing and getting rid of, like, what can I get rid of? What kind of crap can I get out of my life right now? Lightening my load, so yeah, all that stuff is lighting me up right now.
Oh, that's exciting. That's awesome. What would you say is your biggest like fear or uncertainty right now?
Well, yeah, interesting question. The other day I was on the website for the city where I'm going to buy the office space, and I was looking in the zoning, just kind of following the hunches. And even though the space was advertised as this is one possible thing that you can do here and blah, 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 with links and everything, it doesn't seem to be a use that is allowed by the zoning. So I'm like, okay. So now all my like plans and goals and like, I've got the plumber, I've got the flooring guy, I've got all this like stuff going on. And then all of a sudden it's like, I can't do that. So I called the town and they said, he said, he goes, I can't remember. He goes, it might be grandfathered from when we changed the zoning from business to resident to industrial. He goes, maybe it's, he goes, can I get back to you later? Whatever. So I don't even know, after all this exciting planning and thoughts and, notes and meetings, I don't even know if I can do this at all. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like, and then, what if I can't? So I have 6 options, like so far, or 7 different things. What if I can't? One of the things is buy the condo that I was going to buy to live in, buy that as an investment, rent it out, and buy like an RV and just go see the United States for a while, or just go travel around, right? be you, right?
That's cool. I mean, it just
older
shows
version of you.
Yeah. It's just going with the flow. And that's the thing, is like, sometimes we want to be like so precise and like, hey, this will lead to this, will lead to this, will lead to this. But the truth is the only thing about plans that you know for certain is that they're not going to go as planned.
Yeah.
So you got to roll with the punches and having that ability to adapt. I don't care what it is, whether it's in life, in business, in whatever. Like life is always going to throw a curveball at us, like it clearly has with you. And having a great attitude and a great energy and be able to persevere through anything, I think is one of the greatest skills anybody can have, but especially entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I go with the Tony Robbins, what if everything is happening for you, not to you? So I'm like, what does this mean? What's going to happen? Like, it's excitement, right? And wow, if I don't do this, what am I going to do? Oh, yeah, we'll just see what tomorrow brings.
Exactly. No, I love that quote. Absolutely.
Adam, thank you so much for being with us today. I really love talking with you. I love your energy, and your life is just like where I wish I were when I was your age, but I'm getting there. It took me twice as long, but I'm going to get there.
I think you're doing quite well. So no, Christine, like I said in the beginning, I really appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks. The next time you're in Boston or wherever I end up, we'll just, I'll buy you lunch.
Deal. Sounds good. And then if you end up in one of the places I am, I'll buy you lunch then. That'll be our deal.
Great. That sounds great. All right. And thank you, listener, for listening. I know you got something out of what Adam was sharing. And I hope that you're thinking right now about who the right person is to share this episode with, to help them with their life and their sales experience. And, maybe. So Adam, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah. So email is adam@eocworks.com. Website is eocworks.com. Best way, if you want to connect on social media, is Instagram. It's Instagram.com/ or just at Adam I Rosen. I don't know why I said it like that. At Adam I Rosen.
Okay, cool. All right. And I'll put all those links into the show notes and stuff too. So awesome. Thank you. And thanks. Oops, sorry. Thank you very much for being with us. And everybody have a great week.